Hello, I'm Aaron. I'm on staff at Lifepoint, and thanks for taking time to check out our X series. You're getting ready to hear one of the 10 best messages from the first 10 years at Lifepoint, and I believe God's going to use it to speak to you in a powerful way today.
In honor of Valentine's Day, a few days ago, I climbed up in the attic and I found an old box. And in that old box were old love letters. Anybody keep old love letters? Huh? I was like, hey, baby, where's that box of love letters? And she said it's in the attic. So I went up in the attic and I got this box down. And I've spent the last couple of days just rereading old love letters. Old fallen in love with you love letters. Old poems. Where's my poem writing guys here? Who wrote poems when you were dating? Come on, guys. Be honest. It's dark. Only I can see. Who continued writing poems after you got married? Good for you guys. Good for you guys. Man, here's the thing. Let me tell you about something about Song of Solomon. Song of Solomon is it's this collection of love songs that Solomon wrote. Some say it's kind of like a modern day mixtape, all right? Remember when you made a mixtape for, I'm kind of dating myself, a compilation CD, if you will, today, all right? But in my day, it was a mixtape. It was like, baby, put this in, and when you put this in, you know that I'm thinking about you, baby. These are our songs, baby. Right? That was a mixtape. Well, what this is a collection of songs between Solomon and this woman that he's falling in love with. And so I was inspired to take down and begin to revisit the journey that Michelle and I have been on. This summer, we're going to be celebrating 12 years of marriage. We've been through, yeah, I think that's good. Good thing to clap for. And we will readily tell you, we don't have it figured out. We both will honestly admit it's been some of the, probably the best 8 years of our life. And so we've had our ups, we've had our downs. And when I pulled the letters out, boy, my memory was running back to some of these events and some of this, just the feeling you have of falling in love. But I came across this one that I wrote her on Valentine's Day. And I think it would only be fitting. You see, I thought that I was a poet until I started reading some of these. This goes back to Valentine's Day, 1996. This is like vintage, guys. As a matter of fact, I'm going to set up a booth in the lobby, and then if you brothers need some help writing some love letters, I'm going to sell a few of mine. I made a special envelope for this one. In it is this relationship gold. Baby. I could make you come on stage, but I won't. I titled this one Just For You. I even drew a rose right here on the side of it. Y'all are laughing. I haven't got started. This is serious business here. To Michelle, just for you. To express in words my feelings for you is simply impossible. No words would do. To show you how I feel inside my heart still can't be done. Where would I start? How do I tell you just how I feel? Love is inside of me. I know it is real. I kind of went to like the Dr. Seuss school of rhyming. Time sometimes comes when things aren't the best. I treat you wrong and make you depressed. If you only knew how mad I could be, not at you or others, just at me. I want you to know how much I care. I rub your back and play with your hair. I don't always seem to be 100% true. I want you to know I'll always love you. From one heart to another, please always be mine. I love you so much, my precious Valentine. That's some good stuff right there. I mean,
well, good morning and happy Valentine's, everybody. I'm glad that's over with. It's a good thing we don't have 3 services. I got to watch that over and over and over. It is a blast. It's a blast thinking back. And that was 6 years ago. 6 years ago. So my wife and I will now this summer be celebrating 18 years, which is awesome. And so certainly I know there's some here that have been married a lot longer, but it's given us a little bit of a voice to be able to speak on this topic of love and dating. And so today, I want you to get a great note card out. We're going to dive right in. We're reaching into a series called Legendary Love, originally preached 6 years ago. I've titled this message, The Laws of Attraction. The Laws of Attraction. So write down across your notes, Laws of Attraction. And here's what we're going to do. This whole series was built around a book called the Song of Solomon. And this book, Song of Solomon, is a great book. My wife and I did a study on this back when we were dating. And I think it was really set us up for success in our relationship. And so here's the neat thing about this book. And I don't want to assume anybody knows a lot about it. And so I'm just going to give you a real quick Cliff's Notes. Song of Solomon is a highly debated book. It's a very poetic book. It's also a very controversial book. This book basically watches a couple go from the attraction stage to the courtship stage to their wedding day, their wedding night. We watch them have conflict. We watch them make up from the conflict. I mean, it's an incredible book that gives us a picture of marriage and relationships and sensuality. And so I would encourage you to do this. There's no way I can touch on everything that needs to be said about this series in one message. So we asked our team if we could reach into the archives of Lifepoint videos and bring this one back for a short amount of time. So you'll be able to catch this online, and I would encourage that because we're going to jump right in it. And here's what I want to do. If you've got a Bible, go to Song of Solomon chapter 1. If you don't have a Bible, go ahead and open up your smartphone, pull up Bible.com, and you can follow along with us. If you don't own a Bible, we'll give you one. We'd love for you to have one. So on your way out, just stop and grab a Bible. But we're going to dive into chapter 1, verse 1 together. Let's look at this. It starts like this. Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 1 says, "This is Solomon's Song of Songs, more wonderful than any other." So it's written by King Solomon. King Solomon is the wisest man to ever live. He also had 700 wives, which makes him the dumbest man to ever live, okay? However, scholars believe that Solomon wrote this letter, this collection of writings after his very first love before he was corrupted. So this chronicles his journey with a young lady that has captured his heart. And so we get a glimpse into their life and their relationship. And I get the joy of sharing this with you guys. So let's go on to verse 2. Here's what you're going to find. In the passage, you're going to see where she speaks to him. You'll see where he speaks. Then you're going to see where some of her friends talk, because every dude knows that if you start dating a girl, you don't just date her. All of her friends come along and they talk too. So that's how you know this is a real deal. So we're going to jump in verse 2. She begins the conversation. She speaks first and she speaks most. It's how we know the Bible's true. And so she begins though, and you got to love this girl right from the get-go. She says, "Kiss me and kiss me again." Can I get an amen from all the guys here? Like, yeah, who is this chick? She says, "Kiss me and kiss me again. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want." She's not leaving anything to question here. "Kiss me and kiss me again, for your love is sweeter than wine." Right here, chapter 1, verse 2, we got romance and we've got wine. Some of you are like, "I didn't know that was in the Bible." There's a lot of great stuff in the Bible if you dive in there and read it. She says, "Your love is sweeter than wine. How fragrant your cologne. Your name is like spreading fragrance." Just sidebar, this is bonus for all the guys. Smell is a big deal to ladies, all right? She's like, "Man, you smell good." So guys, if you're not bathing on the daily, put that on the schedule. It's a big deal. Smell good. She's saying, "How fragrant is your cologne. Your name is like spreading fragrance. No wonder all the young women love you. No wonder they all love you. Take me with you. Come, let's run. The king has brought me into his bedroom." So here we're going to look into the story of this couple that has an incredible love for one another. And as we talk about these laws of attraction, I'm going to point to 5 different things that we're going to see in their relationship. 5 things that we ought to be able to spot in our own relationships. And we'll ask ourselves, how God-honoring is my relationship? How wise are the decisions that I'm making? So she says in verse 3, she says, your name is like spreading fragrance. Law of attraction number 1 is this. Write this down. Law of attraction number 1, find someone with a good name. Find someone with a good name. Somebody say good name. Names are important. Find someone with a good name. She says, your name is like spreading fragrance. Have you ever learned when it comes to cologne and perfume, a little bit goes a long way? You know that? Have you ever known anybody that didn't get that? And so for them, it was like they just sort of bought the stuff by the case and bathed in it. I remember when I used to study at Port City, Java. I go there study all the time. There was a lady that would come in, and I don't even know. She must have just dumped the stuff over her because I wouldn't even have to look up. I would like, oh, there she is. And like, if your perfume is overpowering an entire coffee shop, dial it back. That's what I want to say. I want to be like, for real, someone tell her that's too much. And so very much like perfume, when you are wearing perfume, people don't even have to see you. The scent of the perfume will let them know that you're there. Your name can do similar things. When people hear your name, they already begin to think about you. And so the person that you're interested in, the person that you're dating, what does their name say to other people? Do they have a good name? Do they have a good name? If you want to find someone worth loving, find someone with a good name. Find someone with a good name. And I would add this, get a second opinion on their name. Now, I don't mean they got like a dumb name, okay? Some people just got strange names, and that's their parents' fault, okay? I don't blame them. I mean, what does their name represent? If somebody were to hear that you're dating so-and-so, and they're like, oh, no, not him, you ought to listen to that. So I find so often when we're in a relationship, we discount what other people have to say about the person we're interested in. When instead of ignoring their insight, we ought to tune into it. For instance, have you ever known somebody that got into a relationship and everybody else was like, you can do better, that dude's a loser, and you're like, but you don't know him like I do. You ever know anybody like that? Or all of a sudden, people get in a relationship and parents are like, hey, this guy's not good or this girl's not good for you, and you're like, but you don't know him. I'm amazed at the young people that will discount the advice of the parents that brought them into the world. I mean, if anybody cares deeply about you, it's your folks. And I've just come to learn there's a lot of times where we will not listen to wise counsel because we're blinded by love. You know the saying, love is blind, which is why when it comes to the person that we're making one of the biggest life-changing decisions, the person to spend our life with, we need to listen to the advice and the counsel of others. She says, man, all these other ladies wish they could have you, but I got you. He's got a great name. Find someone with a good name, Now, when you begin to become attracted to somebody, chances are it's not their name that attracts you. You know, I think about when I first met my wife, and we met sophomore year of college in accounting class. I went there pursuing a business degree. That didn't work out. I shifted gears into religion, but from what I know, God let me go into this business class so I could meet her. Now, I don't understand why he let me fail the business class, and I had to take it again in summer school. But really, I blame her. I was completely distracted all semester. She sat several seats in front of me. And the interesting thing was I knew she was there, watched her all the time. I was like, oh, my goodness, she's so beautiful. I still remember to this day what she was wearing the first time I saw her. But the funny thing is she had no idea I even existed. Didn't even know I was on the planet, which is why she passed and I didn't. But I just remember when I first saw her, I wasn't attracted to her name. I didn't even know her name. I just knew that she was good looking. And that's where it starts. And it's okay to have this physical attraction, but as you get to know somebody, that shouldn't be the priority. That shouldn't be the dominant attraction. You should be attracted to their to their name, Matter of fact, if you go back to verse 5, she continues on. She says, I'm dark, but beautiful. I'm dark, but beautiful. Oh, women of Jerusalem, I'm dark as the tents of Kedar, dark as the curtains of Solomon's tents. Now, this sounds like a good thing. Sounds like she's saying, I got a good tan going on. I got some good time at the beach this summer. That's not what she's saying. To say that she is dark was a strike against her Because you see, if you were dark, if you were burned by the sun, it meant that you had a job where you were working outside. She was a peasant. She wasn't somebody of wealth, didn't come from a royal family, and because of the tan that she had, she was looked down upon. And so she's looking down upon herself. She's saying, I'm dark. I'm dark. And so back in this day, like pasty was sexy, okay? So if you are somebody that just doesn't tan well, you're just off by a couple thousand years. That's all. No big deal. But back in that day, everybody wanted to be pale because that meant you had servants and you were royalty and you had people that cared for you. So she's like, don't look at me. I'm dark, but I'm still beautiful. Don't stare at me, verse 6, because I am dark. The sun has darkened my skin. We see that she's insecure. She's insecure about who she is and how she looks. And just a news flash, guys, every lady has insecurities about her image. Newsflash, ladies, every guy has insecurities about who he is. We're insecure people. And she says, don't look at me, I'm dark. I'm dark. And we're going to find that he loves her anyway. She goes on, she says, my brothers were angry with me, that's why I'm dark. They forced me to care for their vineyards, so I couldn't care for myself, my own vineyard. I was too busy working in their vineyard that I couldn't even hardly take care of myself. And because I couldn't take care of myself, I don't look the way I wish I looked. I'm insecure about who I am. And that leads us to law of attraction number 2. Number 2 is this, write this down. Find someone who will love you through your insecurities. Find someone who will love you through your insecurities. They understand your insecurities, they hear your insecurities, but they don't agree with your insecurities. They love you through them. She says, I'm dark, but I'm beautiful. I like this about her. I like that she admits, I may not look the way I wish I looked. There's some things I would change about myself, but she's got a little bit of attitude about her. She's like, I might be dark, but I'm still beautiful. And ladies, I want to encourage you, if you don't have a little bit of attitude about your appearance, you need to. You need to quit letting this culture and this world define for you what beautiful looks like. I want to see some ladies say, you know what, I might not be a size 2, but I'm beautiful. I might not look like these Photoshop girls in these magazines, but I'm beautiful. I may not have the latest fashion, but I'm beautiful. Ladies, I want you to have a little bit of swagger in the way that you talk about yourselves. Quit chopping yourself down because I don't look like so-and-so and I would change this and why do I do that? Stop that. You may have some things you're insecure about, but you need to understand you are beautiful, and she gets that. And he loves her through her insecurities. Find someone who will love you through your insecurities. Number 3, law of attraction number 3. Find someone with a work ethic. Find somebody that is not allergic to work. We have lots of people in our world that are allergic to work. They miss a lot of good opportunities because it's dressed like work. Look, find somebody that's not afraid to get their hands dirty, that's not afraid to work hard. She says this in verse 7. She says, tell me, my love, where are you leading your flock today? She wants to know, where are you working today? What job site will you be at? She says, where will you rest your sheep at noon? She's looking for an opportunity to spend time with him. She's saying, I want to see you work. I want to watch you do what you do. I want to see you. She's putting herself in a position to observe his daily schedule and the way that he works. And isn't that what we do when we are interested in somebody? We find a way of putting ourselves in their path so we can see them do what they do. You know, when I first was captured by my wife's beauty and I was just beginning to figure out her name and who she was and where she's from, I had to put myself in a place where I could be around her. Now, things have changed. The internet has changed everything. So like nowadays with Facebook and Instagram, you can get to know a lot about people just simply by following them online. It wasn't like that back in the mid to late 90s, okay? Any old people back me up on this? There was no Facebook. I couldn't send you a friend request, and by sending you a friend request, I couldn't know where you're from and your favorite music and what you ate for lunch today. I couldn't do that. Back then, if you wanted to get to know somebody, you had to do recon. You had to work hard. You had to get somebody on the inside. You had to know somebody who knew her, and you had to, pay them off in some way to bring back information. Is she available? What kind of guy does she like? Where's she from? Tell me about her dreams. You had to send somebody on the inside. Then you had to begin putting yourself in a place where you could cross paths. I realize now they would call that stalking, but back then, it's just what you had to do. So I would find out what's her class schedule, where's she going to be, and I would take the long way to class simply so I could be there when she would walk by. I'm wondering if she ever picked up on that. Like, did that just get weird? Like, there he is again. There he is again. And so I would put myself in, and suddenly I'd be like, hey, funny seeing you here. I didn't know you had a class here. Yeah. And then so we just find reasons to begin crossing paths. I wanted to see her. I wanted to see her do what she did. She wanted to see me. We began to get to know each other. So as things would develop, we found projects where we needed to work together. In accounting, there was a project where you needed to work on a computer. And so most people would go to the computer lab. Now, young folks, this is going to blow your mind, but there was once a day, old people, back me up, there was once a day when not everybody had a laptop. For real. I know it's crazy, and I know you're like, you just think at the age of like 11 or 12, you get one, but it didn't. See, back then, very few people had a laptop, and I was very fortunate to have one. And I use the term laptop loosely because it was about this thick. It was a Toshiba. It had a black and white screen. Who had one? Come on, raise that hand. There we go. Yes. Yes, I see that hand. All right, there we go. There we go. So I had this laptop. It took a 3.5-inch floppy disk. Didn't even have a mouse. All right, no trackpad. It had a track ball that you took out of your backpack and clipped it on the side. Black and white screen. And so I'm like, this is my moment. Don't blow this moment, because she didn't have one. And I couldn't spare the thought of thinking that she would have to go suffer in the computer lab when I had the solution to her problem. So one day I mustered up the courage and stood in front of her, and I took my chances, and I said, hey, I didn't know if you had anybody to work with on the project, but I see you have the software. I got a computer. If you want to work together, because I cared. I loved her. I wanted, and she said yes, and we've been working together for 20 years since then. So just saying, maybe a cheesy pickup line, but it worked. But I got to get to know her. I wanted to see her. She wanted to see me. We served on a ministry team together. I got to see her passion for God. I got to see her love for people. And it was just great being able to grow, to see her character, to see that work ethic. Find someone with a work ethic. She says, tell me where you're leading your flock today. Where are you going to be? Where are your sheep going to be at noon? Then she says, for why should I wander like a prostitute among your friends and their flocks? Here's what she's saying. See, prostitutes would put themselves around the workers so that they could get something from them. They would go put themselves out there. She's like, I'm putting myself out there. I'm not going to be like everybody else. I'm not like these other girls, but I want to see you work. If you want a relationship with me, here's the deal. I'm not going to be some prostitute. All right? You're not going to be able to get all there is to get. I've got some standards, which leads us to law of attraction number 4. Write this down. No standards, no relationship. No standards, no relationship. She says, I've got some standards. I've got some standards. Can I just ask, if you're single or you're in a dating relationship, do you have any standards? Have you ever established some standards? Here's some things that I will not compromise on. No matter how desperate I may get, I'm not going to compromise on these. Because what happens is we all have these ideas of like, here's the perfect guy. And I don't know, ladies, if you ever thought about that, probably. There's the perfect guy. Man, I want a guy that is just passionate for Jesus. He's going to be a spiritual leader. He's going to be actively involved in his church. He's going to have a job. He's not going to live with mom. He's going to be successful. And then time goes by. And all your friends begin getting married off. And you're like, well, I mean, passion for Jesus, like if he knows him, I'll settle for that. And then time goes by, and you're like, well, okay, if he's at least prayed once or twice, if he owns a Bible, I'll go for that. And what happens is we begin to lower our standards rather than hold a high standard. This woman says, I've got standards. I've got standards. Listen, a relationship without standards is like a car without brakes. You are a crash waiting to happen. And I want to encourage you, you need to establish some standards in your own life, but also in your relationship. You need to know, who am I? And what kind of person do I want to be? What are the standards for my life? And then in my relationship, what are my standards? You know, my freshman year of college, I don't remember what sparked this, but I was compelled to sit down and write down standards that I wanted to have in my own life. And I can't say I always live by these standards, but when I was going through that box of love letters, I found the list of standards. I had 17 things that I had written down that I wanted to be. And I thought I'd just share a few of them with you. I wrote this down. I said, as God has so generously blessed my life, so shall I set convictions or standards to live by. And I just wrote down a few things like this. When I don't understand, I will consult God's word and seek wisdom. When there's things in life I don't get, I'm going to go to God first. Another standard was I'm going to put God first in everything I do. Another one says I will use discretion when viewing R-rated movies. Another one says I will not date a girl unless she fits the description of Proverbs 31. And then one of them says I will tithe 10% of my money every Sunday. I mean, I'm an 18-year-old in a season of life when I should be out sowing my oats, and certainly made a lot of decisions that I'm not proud of back in those days, but setting some convictions caused me to return to a place when I would mess things up. God would say, hey, you remember? Do you remember? Do you remember? Have you got any convictions for your own life? You know, when my wife and I started dating, we didn't discuss any standards or any convictions. And so as our relationship got going and we got way too exclusive too fast. When I tell people, I'm like, my wife and I were not the example to follow. We lost all of our friends. You know anybody like that? They start dating and they stop hanging out with you and they just become like exclusive. And whenever you see one, you see the other. And that's how our relationship was. I'm not proud of that. And because of our exclusivity, the physical side of our relationship got fast-tracked. And so rather than communicating our standards and what do we do and what are we not going to do and what's going to honor God and where are we going to draw the line, we never talked about any of that. And so before long, our dates began to just become makeout sessions. And every time we would go home and I'd walk her back to her dorm and then I'd run back to my dorm because we had a curfew. And I always felt this tremendous guilt and conviction because I knew that we were flirting with the line of what we should and could do. And rather than trying to honor God, it was more about how far can we go in this relationship? And it always led to guilt and it led to shame and it led to conflict. And so one day we just said, you know what? This has got to stop. This has got to stop. We were several months into our relationship and we sat down one night and I can only imagine, I don't remember the events that led to this night. Maybe things had gone too far. And we sat down and we said, you know what? We got to put some standards in play. We need to repent to God, to each other. And so we sat down and we literally wrote out letters to each other and letters to God. I have them right here. I mean, this is crazy. I'll share mine to my wife just because I want you guys to know that relationships can be a struggle and we needed to make a change. And so I wrote this down. Dear Michelle, as of tonight at 1:17 a.m. on December 3rd, 1995, I'm making a promise to you that I will not kiss you on the mouth or lie next to you until marriage. Some of you were like, good gracious, you're a prude. Here's why. Because my feelings are so strong towards you, I feel that we should both hold each other responsible. I know that this will not be very easy, but it will help us be good examples to others. It will strengthen our relationship with God and ourselves. I love you too much to let our relationship be ruined because of any physical contact. I love you. I signed my name and I dated it. And we set this contract in play. Some of you are like, for real? You wouldn't even kiss her on the lips? Listen, I just want you to know that in our relationship, it had lost its significance. I don't know about you guys, but I remember the first time we held hands. And I remember the first time I told her that I loved her. And I remember, kissing. And so, like, for us, it kind of went like this. Like, we're out on a date. We're at the movies. We got popcorn, which, by the way, going to the movies is a terrible first date. I don't encourage that because you don't get to know anybody. Sorry if that was your first date, but we're at the movies. Greasy hands in the popcorn bucket, and they touched. You guys remember the first time you held hands? And you bump your hands, and you're like, ooh, wow. Like, did they feel that, or is that just me? And so we started holding hands. Greasy popcorn hands. They didn't even care. Wasn't even going to wipe it on the seat or a napkin. Just, we're going to hold hands. I'm going to awkwardly reach over with this hand to get my popcorn now because I don't want to let go. Because I don't know if maybe this was an accident or what, but she's not getting away. And so we'd hold hands. But guess what? A week or two later, holding hands was no big deal. There was no like, whoa. I mean, it wasn't amazing. And so what did I need? I needed more. What's next? Well, now, maybe it's putting my arm around her waist. Maybe it's a kiss on the cheek. Maybe it's kissing on the lips. Maybe it's a French kiss. Who knows? There's always a next, because what happens is in our lives, we awaken this appetite and this desire for more, and it's never satisfied. It always wants more. And for us, our dates always ended with making out. We would have a devotional time together, But I'm pretty sure God was nowhere in the equation. And we just realized our relationship had gotten to a point where if we really believe that she could be the one for me, and if I'm the one for her and this is supposed to go the distance, let's make some decisions today that are going to protect what we believe God is going to do tomorrow. And so we made this promise. Now, she wrote hers to me, and I thought I would just share just a couple of hers. Promissory note to Jeff. That's what she titled it. It's very legal. Number 1, I will not French kiss you or kiss you on the mouth. Number 2, I will not touch your buttocks. Struggle is real. I can't read anymore. So, hey, did we ever mess up? Yeah. But you know what? We serve a God who restores. And so literally on our papers, February 16th, 2 months later, Amendment 1. We had to amend. We had to make an amendment. This is mine to her. Amendment 1. I will not touch your gluteus maximus outside of playful contact. What is that? What is that? Like, just playing? I don't know. I was probably looking for a loophole. Amendment 2. I will not kiss your ears for a prolonged period or with bad intentions. We weren't kissing on the lips, so I guess I kissed on the ears. I don't know. That's funny. So did we make it all the way to our wedding day without kissing on the lips? No. But we went 1.5 years. And I know people are like, for real? For real? Yeah. And what it did, other than save our relationship, is it taught us to say, I love you in ways that weren't like, hey, let's suck face. It taught us to communicate in words and actions. And so we put these standards in place. And I say that because it breaks my heart when I see couples fast-tracking the relationship because they're afraid they're going to lose the person that they're with. Listen, if you have to do things, compromise convictions to keep the person, let them go. They're not worth keeping. I see young ladies all the time giving themselves to any guy that says the right thing and makes you feel special. Listen, you are worth way more than that. Way more than that. When did you lose your sense of value? Set some standards in place. Don't sell yourself short. If you're in a relationship and you're like, guess what? Here's some standards. I'm not going to break these. And the person you're with doesn't agree and doesn't honor your decision, cut them loose. Let them go. They don't deserve you. You need to say, these are things I won't do and I won't compromise. Have some standards. If you're unwilling to put standards in place, you are not ready to be in a relationship. I don't care if you're 15 or if you're 50. You need some standards. No standards, no relationship. Number 5, the last one is this. Law of attraction number 5, listen to their words. Listen to their words. Not just what they say, but how they say it. Listen to their words. I love the words that Solomon and his bride use. I mean, they become extremely graphic and sensual. There are parts of this series that I'm thankful I preached 6 years ago because my kids were not sitting in church back then. And I can't imagine covering that topic with them on the front row. Their words are powerful. So let's just look at a few of their words here in verse 9. Solomon says, you are as exciting, my darling, as a mare among Pharaoh's stallions. Okay, you're like, well, ladies, he's saying, you are like a horse. Obviously, that loses a little bit of cultural context when we read it today. But here's what he's saying. He's saying, you're unique. You are special. See, most horses that carried chariots were black horses. But Pharaoh's horses were white. They were pulled by white horses. And what he's saying is, you are the only one fit for this role. What he's saying is there's nobody that can fulfill this role other than you. He's speaking to her potential inside of her. He's saying, you're unique, you're special. He's speaking to her. She didn't see herself as unique and special. If you want to change what you see in somebody, start by changing what you speak to them and over them. And he just speaks tenderly and lovingly to her. Listen to his words in verse 10. How lovely are your cheeks. He's complimenting her face. How lovely are your cheeks. Your earrings set them afire. How lovely is your neck, enhanced by a string of jewels. We'll make for you earrings of gold and beads of silver. He says, I'm going to hook you up, baby. You are beautiful, and I'm going to get you some jewelry that matches your beauty. You are beautiful. And then look how she responds in verse 12. The king is lying on his couch. Just listen to her words, the way she speaks to him. She builds him up. The king is lying on his couch, enchanted by the fragrance of my perfume. My lover is like a sachet of myrrh lying between my breasts. He is like a bouquet of sweet henna blossoms from the vineyards of En-Gedi. Yeah, it is that sensual. You say, well, what does that mean? En-Gedi is a place of peace and rest. She's saying you bring to the relationship peace and rest. And then he responds in verse 15, how beautiful you are, my darling. How beautiful. Your eyes are like doves. A dove is a symbol of peace. In your eyes, I find peace. I don't find strife. I don't find bickering. I don't find nagging. I find peace. And then she responds, verse 16, you're so handsome, my love. Pleasing beyond words. Can you just hear their exchange back and forth? She says, the soft grass is our bed. Fragrant cedar branches are the beams of our house. And pleasant smelling firs are the rafters. She's saying there is strength in our relationship. Cedar is known for its smell, known for its strength. A relationship has strength. And she finds that strength in him. So he's speaking to her. He's building her up. He's speaking to her potential. He's building her up with his words. He's honoring her. Look at how she responds in chapter 2. Verse 1, she says, I am the spring crocus blooming on the Sharon plain, the lily of the valley. Isn't this amazing? Remember how she described herself in chapter 1? She said, don't look at me. Don't look at me because I'm dark. Don't look at me. I'm not confident about who I am. I'm insecure about my appearance. And now she's like, I'm like the lily of the valley. I am beautiful. Notice how she has changed because of the way he has been treating her and speaking to her. It says, like a lily among thistles is my darling among young women. He's speaking to her and he says, you stand out from all the other women. You are my standard of beauty. When I saw you, when I got to know you, all the other women just fell away. When I met you, I lost interest in everyone else. Compared to you, the other women are like thorns and thistles. There is none other for me. And then she responds in verse 3, like the finest apple tree in the orchard is my lover among other young men. I sit in his delightful shade and taste his delicious fruit. There was a day that she didn't know shade because she was working in the sun, and now she knows shade. She says, you are like the finest apple tree, and because of you, you are my shade. You are my protector. You are my provider. You feed me. Guys, your job is to protect and provide to cover your woman. Your job is to be her provider and her protector. You don't raise your voice to her. You don't raise your hand to her. You protect her. You protect her name, protect her purity, protect her character, protect her potential. Nobody else should be her covering and her protection. But guys, listen to me. In the absence of your covering and your protection, don't be surprised if someone else tries to step in and assume your role. Don't you dare give them reason to. You protect her and you love her and you feed her. And then goes on in verse 4. He escorts me to the banquet hall. She says he's escorting me. He's walking with me to the banquet hall. Guys, remember when you used to walk with her? Remember when you would walk side by side, arm in arm, hand in hand with her? Remember when you would get to a door and open it? Remember when you would open the car door? Why is it that years into the relationship, we can barely wait for her to get in the car before we put it in drive and take off? She's saying, he's walking with me. He's escorting me. It's obvious how much he loves me. Guys, there's no reason we should ever graduate from treating our wife with such care and such attention. She says, it's obvious how much he loves me. Guys, is it obvious how much you love her? Because we're wired differently. As us guys, we're like, I love you, baby. And if anything changes, I will let you know. But she's like, I need to feel loved. This guy is making her feel loved. He's walking with her. You know, one of the things I've tried to continue to do, and I get it right about 98% of the time, is opening doors for my wife. Whether it's the car door or the door to the mall or it's pulling out her chair at a restaurant. I feel so old-fashioned, but I tell you what always happens is you always see the other ladies sitting in the restaurant and they look and they go, and then they look at their loser. And I look at my wife, and my wife just sits a little bit taller. I don't always get it, but I try. And when I'm able to spend time with my daughter, when I take her out on a daddy-daughter date, which doesn't happen enough, I open the door for her. And I pull out a chair, and I want her to know this is how a real man will treat you someday. And if you go out with some young punk and he doesn't open the door, you don't walk through it. You just stand there and be like, the door ain't going to open itself. And then you call me, and I will take care of the situation. It's obvious, it's obvious, it's obvious. Verse 5, strengthen me with raisin cakes. Refresh me with apples, for I am weak with love. Now, the raisin cakes wouldn't work for me. I don't like raisins. But here's the deal. Apples and raisins were aphrodisiacs. She wants him. Guys, your wife wants to want you. And this doesn't mean she wants you because you're buff, so work on your muscles. That's not what it's about. She wants you to listen to her. She wants you to play with the kids, spend time with the kids. She wants you to take out the trash. She wants you to wash the dishes. I remember seeing a plaque that said, no woman ever shot a man while he was washing the dishes. So guys, wash the dishes. Show her how much you love her. Lead her spiritually. Take her to church consistently, not once out of every 5 weeks. Provide for her. Protect her. She wants to want you. And then verse 6, she says, his left arm is under my head. His right arm embraces me. They are face to face. Verse 7, promise me, O women of Jerusalem, by the gazelles and wild deer, not to awaken love until the time is right. She says, I want you, but it's not the right time. Don't awaken love. Don't arouse love until the time is right. You'll hear this over and over through Song of Solomon. She's saying, I want you, I love you, but we're going to be patient. Don't rush it. Don't rush it. Love is patient. Love is patient. Have you ever been to a wedding? You heard that passage. Love is patient. Love is kind. It's not rude. Doesn't envy. Doesn't boast. Love is patient. Lust is impatient. Love slows down. Lust speeds up. And I know I talk to people who say, but Pastor, you don't understand. Like, we've got a good relationship, but I'm afraid if I don't do things, he won't stick around. And I would say if you don't do things and he won't stick around, he's not worth sticking around. You deserve better. I understand. I totally get that it can be lonely at times. But let me just tell you this. It may be hard to be single and lonely, but it's much harder to be married and lonely. Don't rush one of the biggest decisions of your life because you are impatient, because you don't have standards and you're willing to settle. Don't settle. So let me just ask this question in closing. What are your standards? Have you got any? Have you got any? Maybe you once did and you've compromised on them, and it's time to pull them back out and look at them. Or maybe it's time to just say, you know what, if I'm single, here's the person I want to be. And I'm not going to go after somebody that's going to pull me off track. It's amazing. I wish I could tell you the stories of young ladies that chased after God with everything they had, but one day they compromised and they met a loser and they dropped out of church and they quit walking with God and everything changed because they settled. I see it happen all the time, all the time. Ladies, if you have to drag him to church, you're going to drag him through the rest of your life. God's got somebody better. Don't settle. Don't say, have you got standards? If you're in a relationship, have you stopped to say, you know what? There's some things I'm not going to do. There's some things I'm not going to do. I'm going to save something. You see, my wife and I, when we stood at the altar June 6, 1998, while we had a lot of regrets and wish there were things we had done differently, we got to experience sex for the first time. She was a virgin. I was a virgin. And we got to figure things out. And I know a lot of people say, but Pastor, you wouldn't buy a car without putting a few miles on it. Sex is more than a few miles. Okay? Hey, we had to learn and we had to practice. If you got to practice at anything, I can't think of anything better. Just practicing. Have some standards. And so what I want you to know is it's worth it. It's worth it to say, you know what? I'm going to make some awkward decisions today because I've got the rest of my life to look forward to. Students, if you're young and you're in a relationship or you want to be in a relationship, listen, I know you're going to face pressures, unlike pressures. I mean, the pressure today for teenagers is even worse than when I was a teenager. But listen, don't sacrifice your purity on the altar of immaturity. Don't buy the lie that everyone's doing it. If you're a middle school or high school student, listen, our student ministry is kicking off a series. It is going to be dealing with love and sex and dating, and it's going to be great. And you need to be there. Moms and dads, you need to get them there. You need to round up every teenager in the neighborhood and take them there. Maybe today you need to go home and break off a dating relationship because it's not honoring God. And you make some tough decisions. Married couples, how are you speaking to each other? How are your words? Are you walking together? Here's your homework if you're married. Go home, look your spouse in the eyes, and tell them the thing that attracted you to them in the first place. Tell them what attracts you to them today. Get back to some of those little things that seemed insignificant back then, but they were the secret sauce of the relationship. And watch what God does as you change the way you speak and as the way you model this relationship, one to another, but also to those that are around you. Would you pray with me?